The interesting and somewhat bizarre-looking trio of Soviet-era Kazan-made guitar pedals are relics from a time when being in an underground rock band in the Soviet Union was illegal and could end in arrest. All music was strictly controlled by the Ministry of Culture, and anything not approved by the powers that be could be considered criminal activity. As the son of Hungarian immigrants who risked their lives to come to the USA after the 1956 revolution, I have some idea of the communist iron fist mentality that they grew up in, that they could never quite overcome while they were still alive. This makes these guitar pedals all the more interesting to me. I've tried to research who manufactured these, who designed them, and what musicians may have used them, but I've not really been able to find out anything concrete about these pedals, other than that they were made in an area in central Russia that is named Kazan, sometime in the latter part of the 1970s. Really, not that much of a surprise considering that they came from behind the Iron Curtain where information was strictly controlled and so on. Since I couldn't find out anything about these pedals specifically, I thought I'd look into the world of music from which they came from in an attempt to understand the musical environment that they would have been used in. And that was indeed very educational and eye-opening. These relics are more like from a different planet than from the other side of the world. There were 3 different offerings from this so-called Kazan. The most well-known one is a booster pedal, which was really a fairly brutal-sounding fuzz pedal that utilized germanium transistors and looked somewhat like a compact wah pedal, but the treadle is actually just used to switch the effect on and off. The second one was a vibrato pedal, which looks like a wah pedal, but it is actually controlling the depth of the tremolo effect via the treadle. It's an interesting idea that I hadn't thought of as a do-it-yourselfer. I think it's cool enough to have ordered one from a seller in Kazakhstan. The third offering is the Kavakyr, a wah pedal which utilizes germanium transistors and does not use an inductor. Google translates Kavakyr as Quaker, but I wonder if it's a Russian mistranslation of the word quacker. It's not a copy of anything else out there, and I was so intrigued by the circuit design that I took a chance buying one from a seller in Ukraine in the middle of a so-called war. It took about 6 weeks to arrive, but it was worth the wait. I have many of the classic wah pedals that are on most guitar players' radar, and while I generally like them all, I really like the unique voice of this funky-looking wah pedal that was made in 1977. This is one of my most favorite wah pedals. It suits my style very well. One of the things that makes this wah pedal interesting is that there's 2 controls on the front of it. One is a range control, which is really a volume control, and the other is a timbre control, which kind of shifts the center frequency of the sweep. Let's take a quick listen to how this funky wah pedal sounds. I'll be using my 1995 Parker Fly Deluxe into a do-it-yourself distortion pedal that's an original design, and then I'll be adding a touch of reverb with my Zoom 9030 multi-effects unit. I'll be using various levels of distortion because that's really where this wah pedal shines the most. Returning to the vibrato, this is one that I find to be very interesting as far as the circuit design goes. It's not actually a vibrato, it's a tremolo. Thanks a lot, Mr. Fender, for eternally confusing everyone about the difference between vibrato and tremolo. Anyway, I don't think anything exists to which we can compare it to. It utilizes a combination of silicon NPN transistors and germanium PNP transistors, as well as two FETs. One of the FETs is at the input, and the other one is employed as a variable resistor, which helps to create the tremolo effect. It is also a positive ground circuit, like the Kavakir. There are two controls. This vibrato pedal also employs a range control, which is essentially volume control, and the other one controls the speed of the LFO. The treadle operates the depth control. It's very much like a gas pedal. The more you depress it, the more the effect becomes pronounced. There is no bypass switch. It's always on, and at the minimum depth setting, it's essentially off, except for a slight warble if the speed control is at the fastest setting. Let's take a quick look at how this one sounds and in what way it can be used. I'll be using my 95 Parker Fly Deluxe piezo pickups only, with a long reverb from my Zoom 9030 and a shorter delay added to that, provided by a slightly modified Ibanez DDL digital delay pedal. If you want to learn more about the Kavakir, check out the page at my website, DIYGuitars.net, for all the technical details.